Welcome to the Thunder and Lightning Show. John the Son of Thunder here today with Ryan the Retrograde, and happy almost Thanksgiving. I mean, we're right
Yes.
on Thanksgiving
It's the
Eve.
vigil of Thanksgiving right now.
And is it?
It's
I don't know. It's one of my favorite holidays. I'm gonna be honest about that. I have so many memories of Thanksgiving. We have a annual Thanksgiving basketball game with my relatives, and I'm so bad. I play basketball once a year, and they're all better. Like, they're not just, so I have no chance at playing well.
But what about your highlight video that you made on the Appleseed channel that showed your basketball skills? I thought you were pretty good.
Yeah, if you want to check that out, that's one of the earlier videos I have on that channel, and you'll see how skilled I am. And I
Yeah.
even had graphics. It was my early video editing days, and you can see like the start of the John the Son of Thunder channel before I started doing the parody videos for Taylor Marshall. So if you thought the parody videos were great, you should check out my.
I am surprised that you didn't get colleges and NBA teams contacting you.
Well, you'll see another character on there. That's actually my brother, and he was so skilled that part of his highlight video includes correctly pick Kentucky to win the national championship.
Oh, wow.
And so you know he's serious.
Yeah.
And yeah, but anyway, got my church militant magic glasses.
Oh, look at that! He can detect actual molesters now, and
yeah, and you can get a pair. You can get your pair at Zenni, Zenni, and I'm not actually paid to say that. It's just such a great deal, and I actually am serious about that. Without insurance, check it out, Zenni.com. So anyway,
you said those glasses were $20 there.
No, it was 12.
12. Okay, wow.
Yeah, $6 for the glasses, $6 shipping, and these are prescription glasses. It's not a scam. I'm telling you. Yeah. Zenni.com, and this program is not sponsored by Zenni. It's not sponsored by Tab.
It should be sponsored by Tab.
With all of the promotions that we do, I mean, why are we not getting all this promotional money?
Maybe it's because of the Great Recession or whatever is going on now, the Great Inflation.
Maybe, but I think we could just make a whole infomercial and talk about the products, because
all the product placements.
It's basically what we're doing anyway. But
yeah.
Anyway,
maybe you could make at some point in time make a highlights video of all our fake endorsements and things.
Well, but these are real endorsements.
Well, yeah, you're right. Zenni is a real endorsement. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be interested in the traditional.
I mean, I actually endorse Tab, but you can't get it anymore. And of course, Parent Ryan. This is the official drink of the Jesuits, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and the Jesuits have their connections.
They do, yeah.
So anyway, the bulk of this video is supposed to be, well, because Thanksgiving is coming up, we're going to talk about gluttony. Now, Ryan, can you tell me how many sermons you've ever heard the priest talk about gluttony? Not just mention it in passing, like, oh, this is one of the 7 deadly sins. Actually talk for maybe a few minutes about it.
John, I've never heard anything gluttony, except maybe the word was mentioned once in a sermon. I've actually heard more sermons about contraception, which is, I think, one, and that was by Peter the Byzantine's Ukrainian priest. He preached a sermon against contraception. I was like, based! This is so based! and I've heard contraception mentioned by an African priest. I think 2 different African priests mentioned contraception. So, but I don't think I've ever mentioned. I've never heard anybody talk about gluttony. So this is actually the viewers will be humored by this, but I actually wrote a sermon against gluttony because I had never heard one before. So I said, I am gonna write a sermon about gluttony, and I sent it to 2 priests, and I said, please take this as a basis and turn it into an actual sermon to preach on it. And did they do it? No.
I'm going to guess no.
No, they were chicken. They'd probably rather preach about, I don't know. They'd probably rather preach about Joe Biden shouldn't receive Holy Communion rather than gluttony. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you they were more willing to do that.
that's still standing up. I mean, that's still good. But you talked about chicken. I mean, that fits right in with gluttony. So
well, the thing is, because it's a sin, you look out there and there's gluttons in the congregation, most likely. Let me just get into the sermon here. I was joking with John that maybe I should use a southern preacher's voice as I give this sermon, and maybe I'll start out that way, and we'll see if people like the delivery that I give. So, brothers and sisters in Christ, today I will preach to you a sermon on a topic which you have probably never heard before. We all know, or we should know and recall, that the church has listed for us 7 capital sins, also called deadly sins. They are called capital sins because, according to St. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologica, these sins that are so desirable to our fallen nature that they draw us into more and more grave sins. St. Thomas lists the 7 capital sins as vainglory, also known as pride, avarice, also known as greed, gluttony, our topic for today. The 4th is lust. The 5th is sloth or acedia. The 6th is envy. And the 7th is anger. Now, interestingly enough, I was watching an episode of Christ the City. Is that what it is? I'm not sure. It's the YouTube channel of the Pittsburgh Oratory. Father David Abernathy is the host of that program, and he's the superior at the Oratorians in Pittsburgh. And it might be called the City of Desert. Can you look that up, John, while I'm talking?
Sure.
YouTube City of Desert, I believe, is the channel. Okay. And the logo is like it's dark, and there's a city, like a monastic building on top of an island or something there. But so Father David Abernathy, he's going through the Philokalia and on this series, and he mentioned the sins of lust and gluttony. And so I was just amused by that avoid the sins. Everybody avoid the sins of gluttony and lust, but especially avoid the sins of gluttony and lust. They're terrible. Back to the sermon here. To see how the capital sins work, we need only to recall what we have heard in the newspapers or seen in the movies of the so-called crimes of passion. These are typically some violent sins or crimes that are provoked by the capital sin of lust and or anger. In the case of lust, one example I recently heard about on a news site was of a woman who hired a hitman to murder her husband so that she could marry her adulterer. For the case of anger, think about a famous case from years ago where a man murdered his wife and her paramour after finding them in adultery, etc., etc. In these cases, which I personally read about in the newspapers and others with which you are familiar, we see capital sins that eventually lead to murder. But this is not a sermon about lust or anger or murder, but a sermon about a much more ignored capital sin, one which is never talked about today, but easy to find if we only watch our waistlines or walk through Walmart. Today, I want to talk to you about gluttony, so tighten your belts and prepare to hear these words. St. Thomas Aquinas defines gluttony in the Summa as the inordinate desire for eating and drinking. He quotes St. Gregory the Great, quote, "The vice of gluttony tempts us in 5 ways. Sometimes it forestalls the hour of need, which means eating before it's the time to eat, before mealtime. Sometimes it seeks costly meats, so that's fancy food, expensive food. Third, sometimes it requires the food to be daintily cooked.
Oh, there's not all the herbs and spices that I require, and the seasonings, and the braising, and everything so delicately done.
That's Parent Ryan. I'm quoting him, of course. Four, sometimes it exceeds the measure of refreshment by taking too much. And five, sometimes we sin by the very heat of an immoderate appetite, which is eating too fast, like Cookie Monster. Continuing the quote, sometimes we sin by the very heat of an immoderate appetite, which are contained in the following verse: hastily, sumptuously, too much, greedily, and daintily. Those are the 5 ways that you can sin with gluttony. St. Thomas then further quotes St. Isidore, who comprises the first and the second explanations or definitions of gluttony into one heading, when he says that the glutton exceeds in what he eats, or in how much, how, or when he eats. So those are all definitions of gluttony. Gluttony, surrendering to the appetites for food and drink, weakens the will. The soul becomes satiated and focused on earthly things and fulfilling earthly desires. Indulging inordinately in foods will furthermore cause us to be strongly tempted by lust. And those prone to gluttony easily fall victim to lust and sexual misconduct. Now, that's if they don't first become unattractively obese. And often, even if they do become unattractively obese, they still fall into sexual sins. Again, go look at Walmart and see all these women out of wedlock who are fat and have multiple kids with multiple husbands or boyfriends or whatever. And you'll see lust and gluttony, or shall I call them gluttony and lust, all mixed up in the same person. What more evidence do we need of a connection between these sins than by St. Paul the Apostle himself, as he says in 1 Corinthians, quote, meat for the belly and belly for the meats, but God shall destroy both it and them, for the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body, unquote. Is it any wonder that in a country, America, where we live, that is so saturated with sexual vice that we also find the highest rates of obesity in the world? The two go hand in hand. I mean, I think America is one of the fattest countries in the world. I think American Samoa is like the highest. Maybe Mexico, there's a lot of obesity, but maybe some other Pacific island, there's a lot of fat people. So what are we to do? The church gives us a help and a remedy, both for lust and for gluttony, fasting and abstinence. The church gives us opportunities to deny ourselves by fasting and abstinence. In Lent, we are required to fast and abstain on certain days, but in these hedonistic days, we ought to voluntarily fast and abstain. Did you know that the canon law of the church, even the modern code of canon law, which is binding on us now, requires us to abstain from meats on every Friday of the year? The USCCB, although they've received permission in this country, in the United States, that an individual may substitute an equivalent penance of his own choosing instead of abstinence, the law remains that the norm throughout the whole world is Friday abstinence from meats. I, Ryan the Retrograde, your great host, your beloved host of this program, strongly urge you to choose abstinence. We need to fast and abstain more now than perhaps at any other time in the history of the church. Did you know that the church formerly kept every single day of Lent as a fast day? Yes. One full meal was allowed with meat, and you were allowed 2 smaller meals of a size that when combined were equal to or less than the size of the principal meal. Some of you who are older may remember those days. Do you remember that the Ember days were fast days? Did you know that in former days the vigils of many feasts were days of fast and abstinence? Did you know that in former days the season of Advent, starting this Sunday, was kept with days of fast and abstinence? For example, our Byzantine friends and Eastern Orthodox friends, our friend Peter the Byzantine, they have already started their Advent fast. They call it the St. Philip's fast, which I believe began last Monday.
Yeah, I think I think the 15th
is the
is
Feast of St. Philip. Yeah,
and then the feast,
yeah.
and then the day after that.
Yeah,
is it
and
the
it's
day after.
Yeah, it starts the day. Well, it starts the day after, which was Monday.
Yeah, so they.
And I sent you, John. I have an Eastern Orthodox friend, and he told me what he eats on fast days. Did you get that email?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he basically eats cereal with fake milk, salad with some kind of like vegan dressing, pasta with a vegan sauce, peanut butter sandwiches, fruit cups. Did you remember anything else that was on there?
It seemed very basic but very manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Because
carrots.
It's basically there's vegan days, and
mm-hmm.
You just do what you can, and
yeah, there's vegan days, and then there's days when they can have wine, fish, and oil.
And it would be kind of repetitive after a while. But hey, I mean, the topic of the show is gluttony. So,
yeah. I asked him about that. He said there's actually a fasting cookbook which has a lot of different recipes. But since he's a single man, he says he doesn't have time to do all that cooking and stuff, so he just eats the same thing every day.
I mean, can't say I haven't done that before.
Yeah. So, John, can you post the link there? I'm gonna talk about the Advent fast, and a lot of this information I got on this website that he's gonna post in the chat, and then he'll put in the description. So this was a fantastic article. This talked about the pre-1917, which is, I believe that's when the Code of Canon Law, maybe it was 1911. Some laws were changed, but this is for the law of the United States of America before 1917 for Advent, the Advent season. The Fridays of Advent were days of fasting and abstinence. In the other English-speaking countries of the world, Great Britain, Ireland, Australia, Canada, they also fasted and abstained not only on Fridays, but also on Wednesdays. And in the article, he cites a book and tells us exactly how to fast. And this is a really good measurement metric. I used this actually in Lent when I fasted. And I kept to this, and I was able to do, the things that I needed to do and stay. I was, hungry. I wasn't satiated, but I wasn't weak or anything like that. This is what the article says was the old law of fasting. You were allowed one full meal, and it was taken you would either eat your main meal at noon or like at dinner time, 6, 5:30, whatever you usually eat. You were allowed an additional collation of 8 ounces, and it was taken in the evening if you ate your full meal at noon. But if you ate your full meal in the evening, you would have your 8-ounce collation at noon. So you can basically have an 8-ounce lunch and a full dinner, or eat a full lunch and the 8-ounce snack thing like at dinner time. And it says as a general custom, you can eat 2 ounces of bread without butter in the morning, along with a cup of warm liquid, which would either be coffee or tea. So I actually kept to this during Lent. And again, it was, you couldn't. Well, what I would do is, so you have that little snack for lunch, nothing for breakfast. I only had a cup of coffee. Eat this little snack thing for lunch, and then I would eat a full meal at dinner and eat as much as I want, but not forbidden foods. So no meat, but I would eat anything that I wanted that was not meat for dinner. And you would eat a lot and then feel full, but then that would tide you over until your little snack at lunchtime the next day. So these are some basis, a basis here with Advent coming up. We have to. We're in the middle of a war. So part of war is keeping a discipline as soldiers. You have to keep your bullets dry. You have to keep your equipment, where it is, in good shape, your gun in good condition. You have to keep yourself physically fit in good shape, because you're going to have to go out there and run through trenches and foxholes and all this stuff and swim waters and climb over fences. We're in the middle of this war. And so the body influences the spiritual life. So therefore, it's very important to keep the body under control, to resist the passions, the passion to sleep in, the passion to eat in between meals, the passion to get on the internet and watch YouTubes like for hours all day long, the passion except this channel. You can watch this channel for hours all day long, although I think that's probably penance rather than enjoyment.
Yeah, we don't have that much programming.
Yeah, we don't have enough programming. To spend more time in prayer, to discipline the body and the soul by spending time in prayer. And so to conclude this sermon, my brothers and sisters, I urge you this day, I urge you this evening to pray to God and hear what he says. Pray to the Holy Spirit that he may reveal to you his will for how in this upcoming season of Advent and expectation that's coming, we expect the coming of the Lord Jesus at the end of time. Pray, brothers and sisters, that the Holy Ghost will reveal how you ought to observe this holy season of Advent. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
All right, well, you won't hear that from a pulpit. Now, do you want to go back over some of the topics, some of the points that you covered?
Sure. If there's any questions here, let's see. We have some stuff that was in the.
Some of the questions are pretty funny, but.
Okay, something about oh boy.
Wildcats.
Go Wildcats. UK fan here.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have a bracket episode.
Well, that'll be a good idea. Yeah, we'll do a bracket episode. What about the 8th deadly sin of pollution of the environment? Yeah. Eric Sammons had an excellent show. I think it was yesterday, and he looked at the USCCB document on Eucharistic, whatever it is, and they tied up. Yeah, was that what it was? And they tied up like Eucharistic devotion with the environment and migrants and all this. And he says that basically just abortion was thrown in there. Basically, just nullifies everything Catholic. It just completely watered it down.
Yeah.
Trendy Web, why didn't you mention ecological sins and sins against ecumenism? I guess I'm too rigid and stuck in comfortable norms, outdated norms, preconciliar norms. I'm not open to the gentle blowing of the Spirit that Cardinal Casper and Bergoglio and those guys, they experience.
I wanted to just jump in here. City in a Desert is what you were.
City and Desert, yeah.
Father David Abernathy, and the actual YouTube channel is called the Pittsburgh Oratory and Catholic Newman Center.
Okay, that's what.
And I heard that that's a Unicorn Novus Ordo.
Yes, it is. So, I've been to a Unicorn Novus Ordo there at. It's actually called the Ryan Catholic Newman Center at the University of. It's a combined ministry with University of Pittsburgh, Pitt, and Carnegie Mellon. And there's maybe some other school there that they all share that. So it's surprising because it's a Unicorn Novus Ordo, holy and faithful priests who are there, Oratorians. Father David is really like Eastern traded out, even though he's a Roman priest. He's very much into Eastern Catholic. And I don't mean Eastern like, oh, Buddha and Zen and all that stuff. Hindu, well, there's meditation, but it's Christian meditation.
Yeah.
It's he's talking about the Eastern Fathers, Saint Mark the Ascetic, and Saint John Climacus, and of course Western Fathers, Saint Benedict, Saint Maximus the Confessor, everybody who's in the Philokalia, and which, by the way, I don't like to endorse the show Reason and Theology, but he had on very recently. He had on Peter the Byzantine. He had on his deacon, Deacon Tony, Father Deacon Tony Dragani, and he talked about the Philokalia, and it was a really good show. I recommended it to some people, so you can go check that out. Father Deacon Tony then recommended people go watch Father David Abernathy, the Pittsburgh Oratories channel about the Philokalia, and you can get this. It used to be the Philokalia you could read online. It was on archive.org, but then it was taken down because it was actually copyrighted, I think, in the 70s. The translation was. The book is a lot older.
I think
go ahead.
The third university you were talking about in Pittsburgh is Duquesne, which is a Catholic university. I think that's what it is, because I thought that they were Center City. Maybe not, but
I don't think so. I thought Duquesne had their own ministry.
Oh, maybe that might be the case, but I know they're right there in the middle of the city with the other universities too. I know it's not not the greatest area, but
when I've been there, I thought the place where the oratory is actually very nice.
Okay, probably a few blocks away. I mean, Pittsburgh is a very interesting city.
Chatham University. Chatham University is the other one. Yeah, Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, and Chatham.
There's a number of very small universities there as well in Pittsburgh, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so Catholic Northman 726.
Oh, hello, Catholic Northman.
Customary to hunt and kill an adult brown bear by hand and live on its body fat until Christmas Eve. That's the Advent penances in Canada.
See, and because we're not from Canada, I'm not sure if that's a joke or if it's the truth.
Well, it probably would. We wouldn't have permission to do it. We have to stick with our fasting of, what I just read. Anyway, Canadians, they celebrated their Thanksgiving in October. By the way, did you know before when President Abraham Lincoln, the bloodthirsty tyrant who killed his own people in a war, when he invented the holiday of Thanksgiving when he was president in the 1860s, there were many Catholics who opposed the introduction of the Thanksgiving because they had their own Thanksgiving feast, which was Martinmas, which is that November 11th is Martinmas, isn't it? Yeah, Martinmas is November 11th. So Catholics had their Thanksgiving dinner at that time. They killed the goose. Everybody's heard of the Martinmas goose. And they would have their Thanksgiving meal. And then Lincoln, the bloodthirsty tyrant who killed his own people, he kind of decided to make his own, well, not a secular holiday, but the Protestant version of Martinmas. And that became I think it's the last Thursday of November. But anyway, Canadians have their own Thanksgiving, which is in October. It's near Columbus Day. So they're able to they can have a Martinmas. And the nice thing is, Martinmas, after you would eat the Martinmas, then you would be, in some countries and further back in Catholic tradition, then you would begin your Advent fast then with Martinmas. I guess now in America, it's good that since we have our Thanksgiving, I don't want to call it secular, but we have our legal civic Thanksgiving meal the last Thursday of November. I think really by definition, the Sunday after that is always the first Sunday of Advent.
Okay. Do you want to go to the comments? I actually have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you want to go a little bit more in detail of that was actually a very poorly phrased sentence, but can we talk about in more detail the 5 points of gluttony?
Yes, let's go back to that. I went over them quickly. Hastily, so that's eating too fast, like Cookie Monster. And there's some people, if you know people who were in the military, they have to get in there and they're gobbling. And I guess if you're required, if you're in the military, you can gobble. But and there's a way to gobble reverently and a way to gobble irreverently. Okay, Cookie Monster gobbles irreverently. Don't gobble like Cookie Monster. But there's a lot of people who I can see eat fast, and you don't even notice that they're eating fast.
I always eat slowly because I'm too busy talking.
I know, so do I. I'm probably the slowest. I don't know who's the slower eater, me or you. I'll have to time when we have breakfast on first Sunday. I'm gonna have to time that, and we'll see who is the slowest eater. Usually, everybody has plates cleaned up, and I still have half a plate of food. And I'm like, no,
yeah, I know it's
don't take
crazy.
my plate away. I'm still eating this. There's a cream puff there, and there's all this bacon. Sumptuously, which is how do I define that? Oh yeah, that's the costly meats. So that's only eating at the 5-star restaurant, only eating wagyu, whatever that kind of beef is from Japan, only eating that, only eating super duper caviar, only eating the top Nancy Pelosi ice cream cones. I don't remember what kind of cone she had, if it was Haagen-Dazs or whatever, but somebody said they were like $10 ice cream cones. Only. I'm saying, of course, on a feast day, go out there and get the $10 ice cream cone, get the filet mignon with the lobster tail, get the dessert, okay, on the feast day, on the octave of Easter, on Christmas, Thanksgiving, eat sumptuously on Thanksgiving Day, have nice meals, but don't do it obviously you can't do that every day or all the time.
Most of us.
Well, I mean, you're right. Most of us couldn't, but if you could, like you're Bill Gates or whatever, then it's a sin. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Too much. Now, I remember we were talking to Aaron 2.0 this weekend. Maybe you weren't there, and he said, Ryan, I have a question. Too much is like eat much. Quantity is relative. For instance, he says, you sit around all day at a desk and do nothing. And I am out there doing manual labor and stuff like that. And I said, you're right. And I pointed out that St. Benedict actually in the Holy Rule tells about that. He says that for monks who have a sedentary job, let's say they are tailors, scribes, translators doing academic work or whatever, they obviously need less food than monks who are out doing labor, chopping wood, farming, milking cows, building things, that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. Not enough for one person who has a very active life is too much for the person who has a desk job or is a retiree or is, like 80 years old, because old people don't have to eat as much. So the much is relative. St. Benedict says a monk should never feel full. Now that's a monk, okay? We're not monks, but that's the ideal, and we should be striving for that. So I can't say to you, you should never feel full. I'm not saying that. But on a fast day, maybe it's a good idea to never feel full on a fast day. This is point.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, and I think we can discuss a little bit more about that. You're right that you said it's relative. Because, like, if I say, okay, like, you can't eat 2,000 calories, well, like, for me, I've always had a high metabolism. And so, like, I could eat a few plates of spaghetti. Well, this was back in my high school and college days. I could eat a few plates of spaghetti, and I wouldn't gain weight.
Yeah.
Now, someone else, on the other hand, they might eat a plate of spaghetti, and they might gain weight. One plate of spaghetti. So it is relative, and I think it's obviously moderation. And the one thing, especially with too much, the Thanksgiving holiday, it goes hand in hand with sloth. right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you're just gonna sit around, there's a lot of costs. There's a lot of what is it? Cost benefit. I don't want to say analysis because I think that's an economic term, but
Yeah, it is.
just showing one of my degrees. But no, like the cost is if you eat at bad times. So like if you eat late, it's going to be unhealthy for you, and
Yeah.
it's just. I think there's also a practical element of the quantity that you eat as well, like
Yeah.
health wise. It's
Traditionally, most people, I know that in that Saint Benedict says the chief meal is eaten at noon, and then so you have the whole rest of the day to eat off all that, to work off that food, and he did allow a snack in the evening. Although I'm not sure if I don't think he allowed it during Lent. But ordinarily, you would have that snack in the evening to tide you over until the next day's big meal. But everybody knows this is well known in science, if you believe science, if it even really is science anymore, which I think this is, that eating a huge meal and then going to bed is not a good idea,
no.
unless that's what sumo wrestlers do. They go and eat a ton and then they take a nap. And that's actually what I do. I don't really eat a ton, but for dinner I eat and then I go take a nap, and then just a short nap, and then I'll say some prayers and then do some other things before bed. Um, but yeah, the times at which you eat are also important there. In my
Yeah, for
family, for
sure.
instance, we eat our Thanksgiving meal at 1 o'clock. So that's when we have the big meal. And then, so you eat your big meal, and then there's another smaller meal. There's an opportunity for another smaller portion in the evening at 6 o'clock.
Well, and I think another thing here, I just remember this. I'm from a big family. When we have our family parties, especially like extended family. Everyone, like if you have a covered dish meal, you're gonna have a very long line on the table,
Yeah.
multiple tables, and so
Yeah.
and there's always the temptation to eat everything, and you can do that. You can just take very small portions.
Yeah.
It's
Small
not
portions. Yeah.
so. I think it is really a judgment call for everyone, and we can't say, oh, you ate like 2,100 calories, and so you're a glutton. No, I mean,
It's a mortal sin.
no. If you eat
Not, not.
2,100 calories for one meal, unless you're Michael Phelps, but
Yeah. If that's your only meal of the day, let's say you're fasting during Lent and your only meal of the day is 2,100 calories, and you do get some exercise, then that might, you're going to be hungry. And if you're really active, like Michael Phelps, that's not going to cut it. You're going to be
yeah,
totally dead tired. Michael Phelps needs to eat like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day
yeah.
to just stay, give him enough energy to do all the swimming and whatnot.
At that point, you're not even enjoying the food.
No, you're just
So
eating because you're
there's no
hungry.
way it's gluttony. It's just like, oh, I'm eating just so that I can burn it off, right?
Yeah, I had a friend. Well, I had several friends who were athletes in college, and they had to eat so much. Like one who's now a priest, he did gymnastics in college, and he had to eat like 5,000 calories to maintain, because he went and did gymnastics for 2 or 3 hours every day for practice.
Wow.
And so he would just sit down and eat, and then he would drink all these, sweet drinks. And then a couple hours later, he would have to eat more, constantly hungry, because you just need energy. And
Yeah. So the guys at Word on Fire, yeah.
Oh yeah,
We're gonna have more than 2,000 calories there.
Yeah, 2,000 calories. That's the appetizer before the main meal. Every day for me is Thanksgiving. I eat an entire turkey. Those dudes, I bet those dudes, Bulk Baron and some of those other guys, yeah, they're just pounding probably protein shakes and eating eggs every meal and stuff like that. I don't know how they can fast. Of course, actually they can. There's a lot of vegan protein and vegetarian protein that you can get, which you could eat during Lent. because there's dudes who are like vegan bodybuilders and athletes, but they're not huge. It's better to just for maintenance, like a season of Lent, that you could maintain your conditioning and physique with those vegan choices. I think I was watching some athlete was pointing out that somebody asked him if he could, maintain muscle with a vegan diet, and he said, "Have you ever seen a cow? Do you realize that all they eat is grass, and yet look how muscular they are?" Okay. Now, okay, they have a different stomach than we do.
Yeah.
They're designed. They were created to eat grass and be able to build muscle with it. Man really was designed to eat many different kinds of foods. Okay, so that's too much.
Yeah.
Then there's greedily, which to me, that sounds like wanting all the food, getting everything so that other people don't have it.
Yeah, so I guess one scenario would be like if there's one cookie left and you take it just so someone else won't have it. I guess that would probably be a very obvious instance of that.
Going up there and everybody's taking 2 pieces of pizza and you make sure to get 3. Hurrying up and eating your 2 slices so you can go up there and get the last slice. That's another example of the greedily. And then daintily, which is desiring the spices, and it has to be prepared just right and look right, and it's a particularness with the food. So I'm not exactly sure what the difference between I think the sumptuously is the richness, is the costliness of the, that's what he says here. Sumptuously is the cost of the meats and the food, and daintily has to do with the preparation, the elaborate preparation thereof, and the recipes and the plates and the arrangements and everything like that.
Okay, I have one more question before there's some good comments here. Would getting drunk fall under the spectrum of gluttony?
Well, that would be the too much, yeah. So let's think about the drinking. Hastily, sumptuously would be, the sumptuously and the daintily would be like, I only drink Chimay, I only drink Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, I only drink like, Lagavulin, 18-year-old Scotch or whatever. I only eat filet mignon. Like for breakfast, I have filet mignon, caviar, and I don't know what rich people eat for breakfast. But, anyway, I was talking about the drinks there. So hastily drinking, chugging beers, okay. Sumptuously, I talked about that. Too much, obviously, yes, too much. Greedily, which is making sure you get the last drink out of the bottle when you're with friends or whatever. And then I kind of mentioned daintily and sumptuously are similar. I mean, probably the daintily would be like,
oh, I don't have the right glass for this particular ale, and so I'm not going to drink it.
Or maybe they're buying the $500 bottle of wine.
Yeah, that whether that's the sumptuously or the daintily, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. All right, there's some good comments here. I see RR, and he says you could probably convince the bishops to teach about gluttony if you explain to them it was taking too much from Mother Earth.
Tell them that, that's why the elites, Ryan Grant often talks about this, the elites want us to become vegans and eat bugs because they say all these cows and humans are producing too much CO2 and it's ruining the environment. So if you probably convinced the bishops somehow that all this eating of meat and fancy things and ice cream is destroying Mother Earth, then maybe they would say you need to cut back. But of course, all these guys are overweight, obese, and unhealthy, so they don't know how to do it. They're completely unable to push the plate away, and they're also unable to keep their hands off of seminarians and people like that. You just saw Uncle Ted got sued again because he couldn't stop touching seminarians and young men and all this stuff. So I don't know. The bishops can't control themselves. They can't control themselves spiritually or physically. And but we should try, okay? We should try.
And well, I saw there was this challenge from someone on Twitter. They said, I challenge the politicians who are saying that cows are harming the environment. I challenge you to spend or if I spend a night in a room with a cow, you spend a night in a room with a running vehicle, and see who ends up happier at the end. At the end of the night.
Yeah.
Okay, so Romans here. I like my Byzantine church, but the presbyter was pushing jab, so I backed off. Yeah, that's tough. That's why I always say, like, Byzantines, in my experience, they're solid, but you do have some modernism there too.
Yeah, sometimes.
Very unfortunately, because the liturgy is very good. So
yeah.
Abigail, welcome to the channel, Abigail.
Welcome.
Look,
she's got as her logo healthy cherry tomatoes. So kudos to you.
Well, that's actually another topic. It seems to me like I have conversations with people, and we don't have like I don't know how much we have in common, but just not like strangers, but even like coworkers. The conversations, a lot of times they end up talking about food, and it's always such a topic of conversation. I say, man, I really like this food, and I'm thinking, I haven't had that for I don't know how long.
Like, everybody eats every day. They eat, so we all have something in common there.
I guess, but it just food is a topic of conversation, but it can easily become an obsession in a sense, and that certainly leads to gluttony. And so, that's been in the back of my mind actually for a while now.
You should ask me about Food Network after we're done with these questions. Whether it's illicit to watch Food Network.
Well, I mean. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
That's a good question. Catholic Northman has a good question here. Does anorexia or total fasting for appearance fall on the gluttony spectrum?
Go ahead. What do you think?
I would say no. I think it would fall under vanity?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Vainglory / pride is one of the capital sins. Because if it's for the appearance and it's harmful to the body and it's out of place, then that would be pride or vainglory.
But at the same time, could it really be categorized as a mental illness and maybe not a mortal sin?
Well, it could be, but you'd have to examine that with a confessor, a Catholic psychiatrist. I mean, but the general idea there, if we're assuming that it's not some sort of mental illness that's culpable, because sometimes you can get yourself into this stuff by bad thoughts that you give into, it probably begins as a desire to look good, which I'd say is, if not good, it's morally neutral, the desire to look good and be healthy. But then you take that to an extreme where you're not eating at all, and if it's done for appearance, not gluttony, but that's probably vainglory. Now, there could be examples where this is necessary for a job. For instance, think about if you're a boxer, wrestler, MMA fighter, or somebody who runs, marathons. That's not a good idea because you're going to be
because you look really unhealthy.
Yeah, you're thin already and you're always in shape. But let's talk about the boxer or the MMA fighter or wrestler who's got to make weight. Why are you doing that? If it's just to lose 2 pounds to make weight because it's just water weight, then that's totally okay. But, let's say you're the day before the match, the weigh-in, you're like 5 pounds overweight because you haven't been able to control yourself. You've been eating potato chips and all this stuff for the past couple of weeks. You have to have a plan here. So that's a complete lack of planning. Probably there was gluttony leading up to that, and so there's certainly some vice there of a lack of self-control. So that's gluttony that would lead up. So gluttony could cause someone to go into this total fasting. For instance, like the bulimia, where you can't control yourself, you're eating uncontrollably, then you feel terrible, which is sort of like it might be a righteous indignation or an unrighteous indignation, which would be caused by pride. and then you go and vomit up all this food, and then you beat yourself up even more, which is again more pride. And then to sort of calm that, instead of confessing your sin and not worrying about externals, well, then you go and eat more. So it's this vicious circle. So I don't think the anorexia, qua anorexia, or the total fasting would be gluttony, but I bet gluttony would cause that. I'd say that's chiefly vainglory and pride.
All right, I want to skip over Adrian's comment for a second and get to this one. Aiming for my first truly trad Advent this year. Yikes, because sweets are a weakness of mine and use food to numb boredom. Well, here's my thought, and it works for me. If you don't have that stuff available in your house, you're not going to eat it, right?
No, you won't.
So get rid of it, and then give it away. Like, see if someone will take your candy. Like, if I give up candy, guess what? I don't have. If I give up candy for Lent, I'm not going to buy it until after Easter.
Yeah, that's I whenever when it gets to be near Septuagesima, I've eaten all my sweets and everything. All my Halloween candy is now gone. I ate my last Oreo cookie tonight, and I have a couple hard pretzels, which I'll probably finish. Maybe I'll eat those as part of a meal once Advent hits. But yeah, don't buy that stuff. It's not in the house. I rarely ever keep snacks in the house, and so therefore I never snack.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I like snacks, but if you don't have them available, you're not going to eat them.
Yeah, and another thing that you can do, what I do is, well, this is tab, so it doesn't have any nutritional content, but one thing I found out is during Lent, when I'm fasting, if I start to lose energy in the afternoon, is I'll go get a can of soda and drink that. Or have a cup of coffee, but I don't put sugar in my coffee or milk or anything. I drink black coffee. So that'll just give you, okay, so you can drink a fruit juice or whatever, and that will give you some energy. So maybe Abigail, consider a, some kind of a fruit juice or something as a snack there.
Yeah, definitely. And that helps a lot, because I know with me, I eat a lot of carbs, and whenever you're trying to limit your meals, like carbs cause a spike in your sugar, and it really makes you hungry. And
it makes you hungrier. Yeah,
I start getting lightheaded sometimes.
Yeah,
that's
why I don't even eat candy at all or sweets during a fasting day, because then it's just a half hour later you're hungry again. It's terrible.
Would you like so what do you think about the Food Network?
Right? Oh yeah, let me take a drink here. Well, the Food Network, I watched it the other night. I went to visit, my brothers were home visiting my parents, so I went to visit them. And, okay, here's Fox News, and it's just all crazy stuff, and sports is all woke, so what are you going to watch there? And nobody wants to watch, like, Hallmark or Lifetime because it's dumb. And so we decided, let's put on Food Network. Now, okay, it's safe, but you are going to see pretty much, you're always going to see somebody on there who's in a gay marriage or is a homosexual or something in the commercials even. So, okay, that's not exactly safe, family appropriate or whatever. But, food. People like food, and they're doing things. There's contests. I'm going to bake an apple pie. So it's leading up to Thanksgiving. So they're talking about, I'm going to bake this apple pie. And it's a relaxing network. Now, here's the problem. Let's say you're fat, obese, you got an eating disorder. Watching that is not a good idea. It's like dietary pornography or whatever. You should not be watching food all the time. Naked pork chops. I remember G.K. Chesterton talked about naked pork chops. And so don't watch Food Network if you've got a problem with food. You can watch mathematics videos on YouTube. You can watch. I watched a video last night where a guy went out in the woods and he built a cabin. It was a half hour. I had it on one screen. I was doing something on this screen, and this guy built a cabin. It was very relaxing. You hear sawing and pounding, and you hear birds chirping. It was great. So let it be, depending on who you are, watching the Food Network could be a relaxing or an entertaining topic, but for other people, not.
Well, and I will say, I don't know if it's Food Network, but you've seen those shows where there's like Man versus Food, where they take all those eating challenges. And so, like, if you can eat this full pizza, or if you can eat this whole pizza in like half an hour, then you get it for free.
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I'm not aware of those dudes.
Yeah, so there was a guy that he would just go around to do all these eating challenges at different restaurants, and it was like publicity for the restaurants, but then it's these enormous eating challenges, like, two guys have to finish this gigantic pizza or something.
Yeah.
I forget all the other ones.
That's probably gluttony.
Oh, for sure.
Because the reason for the food is not for contests, but it's to stay alive and for social activities and whatnot. So I think that's so far out of the realm of normalcy, these competitive eatings and the eating challenges, that's gluttony. That's too much, too eagerly, too hastily, all that stuff.
All right, and look, it's slow roasted marshmallow. Well, you fooled us.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for your comments. Now, Ryan, would you like to get into Adrian's comment here?
Well, he said we don't have to talk about it, and I don't want to get. We're scared of getting sued by.
Okay, well, we'll skip it.
Actually, we're not. But that's a topic for another show. We'll talk about that in another show.
All right, and I did talk about that a little bit in my EVTN, actually more than I planned to. So I'm just, I don't know. We'll have to see how brave we are and how much we want our reputation smeared. And
none of us have any money, so we're not going to get sued for damages. So that's the great thing about being poor, is just say whatever you want. Nobody's going to sue you for defamation. But we'll talk about that at some time. We'll talk about it sometime. We'll see
I think
that
with
whole
church
thing develops.
I think if you don't like them, don't give them views. And
maybe it's best not to even talk about them anymore, because they were pretty much irrelevant until they had this spat.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks, Adrian. I don't know. Our thoughts anyway, so it's not like our thoughts on the topic anyway. So it's not like talking about it will change anyone's mind or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have plenty of videos that express our opinions from years ago. So, do you have any other thoughts on this? How about any of the viewers? Do you have any comments?
Questions about gluttony or luttony?
Let's see. I do. Okay. And getting back to my topic on like conversations about food.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it possible to gluttony wouldn't apply if you're just talking about food, even if that's all you talk about, would it? Because
if it's all you talk about,
well, it seems like most of my conversations at work eventually turn into food. And it's like collective conversations, like, oh, this is good, or like this is like such a great food, or like, I really like this restaurant, or I don't know. It's interesting because that's what all the conversations sort of turn into.
I'm not sure. St. Thomas defines gluttony as the inordinate desire for eating and drinking. So unless all that speech about the food is motivated by an inordinate desire, then I don't think that that's gluttony.
It could be. I mean, inordinate desire.
It could be if you're constantly thinking about the food, you're talking about it, you're making plans. Like I think somebody had mentioned, like making elaborate plans for a meal is different if you're the cook. Obviously, you have to have elaborate plans because you have to go get the ingredients, and you have to say, okay, I'll start cooking X at this time and Y at that time, and then everything's ready at the same time. But for somebody, and if you're planning a banquet, obviously the same thing. But if every day you're like, well, I'm going to go here and eat this, then I'm going to eat that, and you have a whole plate of food, a whole table full of food, and you're doing that regularly, not on like anniversary celebration or Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, then that's gluttony. If every one of your conversations is about food and all this stuff, it could be gluttony, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. Maybe if you're friends, you're talking to chefs, then this is your livelihood. So obviously you're going to talk about food a lot.
But yeah, and chefs, they're really into the presentation of the food too. I mean, that's their job.
Yeah, that's their job. But let's say you're a computer programmer, and all you're doing is talking about food all the time, and not about religion or conspiracies or politics, but just food all the time. Not even programming. Food. That's probably there's a spirit of gluttony there.
Yeah. All right, let's get to RR. Does taking things to excess generally fall under gluttony even if they are not food? I have the 7 deadly sins examination of conscience that suggests that under gluttony. I don't know about that. I think they might fall into the other categories.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because St. Thomas, and I read the section on gluttony, and it's only food. So the excesses of the other things, what would be the thing? Let's talk about,
for example, internet.
Okay.
Like if I'm constantly obsessed with the internet,
that would probably be sloth, because you're just taking the easy cop out and not doing the arduous task. So Achedius/sloth is avoiding the arduous task. The prayer is the most arduous of tasks for the sake of the comfort and the pleasure. So being on the internet all day long playing video games, that's sloth.
Well, and sloth would be another good show topic.
We should do the show on sloth. I don't know,
because gluttony is obviously applicable to our culture, but sloth in particular, men. I mean, seriously, like especially younger men.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on this?
I just called up a picture of a sloth here. I won't share the picture, but the animal, okay, not the capital sin, but the animal sloth.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it got that name because the sloth is just kind of like, it's almost like the sloth smokes marijuana. He just smokes doobies all day long because everything's in slow motion. He's just kind of hanging around, munching on things.
Well, I have some fun facts whenever we do that show topic.
About sloth or about marijuana?
About the animal.
Oh, about the animal. Okay.
Yeah. Stay tuned. This will be a future.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do a sloth show. I've never heard a show about a sermon about sloth either.
Yeah, I did hear a sermon about self-denial though. And I think that's a similar category, and it's something that's very important because
the contrary of pride is humility, and so the contrary of sloth is probably the self-denial and penance, mortification.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other thoughts?
Do you remember, and was that in the Goonies that there was that character Sloth?
I didn't watch. I haven't
look
watched
that up.
No.
Goonies.
And actually,
Sloth.
any kind of TV show or movie, it's very interesting. People say, "Have you seen this movie?" No. Like I don't watch movies. I don't watch like regular TV shows. I just don't find them. I'd rather watch documentaries. You're getting an inside look at John the Son of Thunder here.
Yeah, only documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's exciting and engaging, and like, whereas these TV talk about sloth. I mean, these TV shows are garbage.
Yeah. Well, by the way, Sloth was the character in the Goonies, the '80s movie.
Oh, here we go. Live near an Augustinian monastery, Cannon's Regular, New Jerusalem. That's in West Virginia.
Down there in West Virginia, yeah.
Excellent TLM liturgies and homilies on YouTube.
Yeah, I've watched them before, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting place to visit. They are one of the few exclusively Latin Mass orders
Yeah.
in the United States, and it's a small. It's just in that location, I believe.
Yeah, Brett has visited there a number of times, and I know the one guy is Canon something Oppenheimer. I think probably no relation to the guy that invented the atomic bomb, but I'm pretty
Now,
sure that's one of the founding religious there.
now wasn't one of the guys from the Canon's Regular named the Latin Mass director for the Diocese of Wheeling Charleston, West
Yes,
Virginia?
he was, and it,
And
yes,
I don't know if I, I don't know if they say mass at Morgantown, which is I don't know if it's the university. I don't know if it's affiliated
the
with the university,
Morgantown,
but
the Morgantown Mass, I thought was the campus mass at West Virginia University. So there's a parish in town, and that's a diocesan, I believe. I don't think it's any religious that go there.
okay. But it is interesting to have the someone from a religious order being named to the diocesan Latin Mass
Yeah, they're
coordinator.
like the Latin Mass czar of the Wheeling Charleston diocese.
And I think that's so unique because the bishops really like their priests, the diocesans, to have that position because the religious orders are not necessarily under the same level of obedience to the bishop as
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic there, and I'm encouraged by that. It sounds
Yeah.
like
I sent you the link. It's mountaineercatholic.com. And if you go to their website, it looks totally based. There's servers and cassock and surplice. There's a Corpus Christi procession with the girl in the veil throwing flower petals. The priest there is a young priest, Father Brian Cranwelge. And Victor and Vince, they told me that they actually met him before.
oh
I don't know if
wow.
he's a friend of a friend or whatever, but they said he's pretty trad. And there's great pictures of like really tratted out chapel and Eucharistic adoration expedition, and they have the Latin Mass there at this particular parish. It's in town, but they do the official. Wait, maybe this is this university is on campus. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever been to Morgantown before, but if we have any WVU people that watch the show, they can fill us in. But yeah, they're one of the few campus ministries I've seen that has Latin Mass. You know, it's just fantastic.
And that's a good idea for campus ministry, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why Francis is cracking down on religious because of the religious orders. Yeah, I mean
Because
that's
they're kind of independent. They're really trad out with Latin Mass and that kind of thing.
yeah. And I saw some new information on the Fairfield Carmelites that I'm going to talk about on Monday. I wish LifeSite News. This is my one complaint about them is that they're releasing these like small bits and pieces, but they have these gigantic articles. It really doesn't say a whole lot of new information on the Carmelites in Fairfield.
Yeah.
They have these. It's basically like, all right, we're going to recap the recap, and then here's these small bits of information that we're going to release in this article, and it's like just release it all at once. I mean, I wish you could. I wish you would.
Well, you know, this is part of salesmanship is you don't give away
Yeah,
the whole thing all at the time. They've got to get hits.
They gotta make the money
It's just
somehow.
like this show. We don't tell you all of our secrets in one episode. We drag you. That's why you need to become a premium subscriber. Get the Patreon at the super duper unobtainium level for the John the Son of Thunder program. You'll get the pre-show, and then that's the full story.
And you can, if you're a premium subscriber, we'll just throw this out here. We're in discussions. We're developing our prototype of our own version of Church Militant magic glasses.
The magic glasses.
These have not been released to the public, but you'll get an exclusive first opportunity of these glasses if you become a premium subscriber.
John is wearing them right now. Those are the prototypes of
we're testing it
special John the Son of Thunder / Church Militant glasses.
And from what I can see, there's no shady characters amongst the commenters and the viewers of this live stream so far. And so I'm gonna, we'll have to test it. It'll be a next year thing, but keep you updated on the progress of this prototype.
It's like the what are those sponsorship programs that people do where you give money for the development of a product? No, it's not Give, Send, Go.
Is it like a early investor or something? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
one of
Is that what
those.
it is? That's actually a cool idea. I just never really got into it.
Man, maybe somebody knows what those are called. There's like 2 different sites where you crowdfund a product. It's not GoFundMe.
I don't know, but it sounds interesting. I mean, that stuff, because I kind of like the market, the stock market, and I like watching graphs and everything. But that's one where you can really make a lot of money.
Indiegogo is one.
Investor.
Indiegogo is one that I've definitely heard of, but there's another one. Kickstarter is the other one. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Yeah, we'll set up an Indiegogo / Kickstarter for our special church militant / John, Son of Thunder detector eyeglasses.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of bands use those websites as well.
Oh, do they?
They need funding for their albums, but then they give you good promotions. And then we can get to this comment. WPI, that's where Pachamama is, or where Peter is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's really been going after the Fairfield nuns recently. Maybe the hammer is about to drop on them. See, I just ignore this. Like, people, they repost stuff from Mike Lewis, and I'm like, I don't care, because there's nothing relevant that he has to say.
Yeah, you know what they'll have to say.
Why are you giving a platform to this white supremacist?
So my question is, why are you giving a platform to this Novus Ordo supremacist, to the Pachamama supremacist and Mike Lewis? Ignore, or if you're going to talk about him at all, only talk about him to criticize him. Where are the people who are smart and follow the rules for retrogrades or rules for radicals? Find the target, freeze it, isolate it, attack it. So you should go after the antics of Mike Lewis and where Pachamama is, or even just the whole website in general. Only mention him to criticize him for being schismatic outside the church, a papalator, etc.
Well, we talked about Taylor Marshall recently, and we said, did you notice he really, on Twitter, hasn't been posting much except for promoting his videos?
Who?
He hasn't been really interacting with very many people.
Oh, Taylor Marshall. He's
been staying out of all this controversy with Church Militant and the stuff they try to start and everything.
Yeah.
It seems like it's the right thing to do.
I agree. I've been off Twitter for years. I'm staying above the fray. But,
I mean, because then you don't get lawsuits filed against you.
Well, exactly. And, I said, Brett sent us that thing about, or was it you that sent today about Strickland tweeted that he tweeted this apology for not doing enough to save Joe Biden's soul or whatever. And I said, why are you apologizing to Twitter? You're better. I said, Parent Ryan, who goes and confesses to plants, it's better off. Strickland, if he confessed that sin to a plant, would be better off than confessing it to Twitter. So either confess it to Christ in confession or a plant, but it's a waste of time to confess that sin to Twitter.
Well, I think Twitter's a better platform than a USCCB meeting, although I think it would be better off confessing at a USCCB meeting just to call out his brother bishops. That's another topic, and I actually did talk about that on Saturday. I beat Eric Sammons and Taylor Marshall to the punch on that one.
There you go. That's why you should become a super duper unobtainium level subscriber to the Patreon, because John the Son of Thunder beats the experts to the punch.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to get through a few more comments here and then we'll wrap it up.
Dom Daniel Oppenheimer Schmitz. Yes, that's Dom Daniel. Yeah. I call him Dom Daniel Oppenheimer Schmitz. He is the superior there at the Canons. Are they regular or irregular? You decide. Of the New Jerusalem.
All right, and this is in reference to Mike Lewis. I think he and Max Beams are funny. I just like keeping tabs on what the other side is saying out of curiosity. Well, and it does read like parody sometimes. So if you can laugh at it, then you should.
Curiosity is a vice. It's under.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I think it's under pride and vainglory or sloth. You'd have to check that out. But curiosity, I think, is a daughter of sloth.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't know. It makes me wonder. I mean, I do a lot of financial investigation, but a lot of it is results driven. And so, how much do I do, and how much of a waste of time is it? I don't know. But it doesn't seem like people really appreciate good financial research. Those are the videos that have the lowest views on YouTube on my videos, which unfortunately
Really?
that's like the most profound work I do.
Wow.
Because it's unique to my skill level. And this other stuff, commenting like, say, anyone can go on YouTube and speak like Father Altman. These faithless bishops, they shut down our masses during the virus shutdown, and I'm like, okay, Father Altman, like that happened a year and a half ago. Like, let's move forward, because we were saying that a year and a half ago.
Yeah, we did the
and
first
now we're done with it. They opened back up, and okay, no one apologized.
They're not gonna apologize. It's like forget, and hopefully people forgive them.
There was one priest who apologized and the video was online. I was like, oh, good for him.
Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that, and we forgive you. But I don't know.
Curiosity is a daughter of sloth.
All right, so don't waste too much time.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely need to plan for that. All right, do you have any closing thoughts, Ryan?
No, that was all. Good show. Good questions, good comments, and hopefully some people learn some things and they'll practice some more self-control. Don't be gluttonous. Advent's coming up, so exercise, moderation, temperance, and fasting and abstinence.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Thanksgiving if you're in the United States, but
happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
But not too daintily,
or hastily, sumptuously, too much, etc.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. We are the laity,
and we will not be silent.